How do musicians not make any mistakes during live concerts? They do. You're just not aware of it. Musicians make mistakes a lot, even during recordings. You can find some great examples of mistakes on some Beatles records, for example. But in general, a lot of practice and familiarity with their own music. I make mistakes every night. As Victor Wooten said, if you play the wrong note, lean into it. If you play it once, it's a mistake. If you play it twice, it's the song. The one thing you absolutely need to bring to the table is confidence. So you own it, and play on. Beyond that, it's all about practice. Before I play a song on stage, I've probably played it 200 times. A guy the first used to be in a band with said, once you can play the song 40 successive times with what the audience would call no mistakes, you're ready to go. Operative word: audience. We're hyper aware of our many mistakes. We do. But, as others have said, there are ways to deal with mistakes. You can improvise around them, turn them into part of the piece, or just shrug it off and keep going. When I was a student, my teacher told me a joke that the audience listened to the first minute of music, clap for what you did in the last minute, and won't notice what happens in the middle. 1. Practice, 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 practice. 2. They do occasionally still make mistakes. However, since you do not know the music as well as they do, you oftentimes do not notice it. Practice. A lot of practice. Always make your mistakes look deliberate, is the credo for all performers. If you have the confidence and ability to pull it off and you don't crack up, then no one will know. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. There's a million fun videos out there, but this Bruce Springsteen one is my favorite because of his reaction. Mistake is at 7:38. https youtube.be/cknpixvro. Edit. Typo. I read a saying that goes, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Musicians practice and practice and practice, and then practice more. But they still make mistakes, especially during live concerts. The good ones ignore the mistakes and move on like nothing happened. The great ones turn the mistake into a feature instead of a bug. Years ago, I was watching a clip of Rod Stewart in concert. He was in the middle of a song. Then suddenly he stopped the band and confessed to the crowd that he'd forgotten the words. Tears of joy, the crowd just laughed and they started the song over. They do all the time. Though some classical musicians seem like they are frickin' machines. Respect. But overall, seasoned musicians don't really care. They are able to roll with it. Heck, some make it sound cool. But overall, practice, practice, practice. I'll also point out, there's a nasty note on one of the greatest albums in history. Kind of Blue. Doesn't matter. Makes it real. They practice a lot, but they do make mistakes. You don't realize it when it happens most of the time. Alive by Kiss was one of the first big live albums. And the people responsible for making it into an album relate stories for how much of a mess the performance was by album standards. They had to call the group into the studio for some re-records. And in general, it was a huge project to deal with all the mistakes in the performance. And there was little precedent since it was one of the first live rock albums at the time. So yeah, live performance is usually full of mistakes. They do. We just call it jazz. And no one else notices. When I was younger, mistakes bent me out of shape so badly. Now, as long as we're smiling and recovering quickly, it's still a good show and everyone has fun. They do. Experienced musicians can pick up on the mistakes and make new melodies on the fly. That is why music in concerts end up sounding different. Many hide the mistakes by pointing mic to crowd and letting them sing. Edit. Also, if they are tired or feel like they can't give it all, they can tone down vocals and change up ways to approach performance, like performing acoustic versions. We do. It's just hard for most people to tell with all of the other noise. Also, we practice how to correct mistakes. If I accidentally play the wrong note on guitar, I can bend the string up to the right note to make it sound like it was intentional. I can also embrace the wrong note and keep using it throughout the rest of that musical phrase. It'll just sound a bit jazzy. We break strings occasionally, too. That's always tough because it can pull the rest of the strings out of tune. So you need to keep playing on only 5 strings that are all a little bit out of tune while trying to find a time to swap your guitar. Here's a video of Stevie Ray Vaughan breaking a string and swapping his guitar without missing a beat. Absolutely incredible. When you're playing the same set on a tour, by like show 5 or 6 you lock it down. It becomes you. By show 10-50 it's like you aren't even thinking anymore. The best way to get brilliant at an instrument is to play a bunch of shows. Everyone will think you're a wizard, but your muscles and brain just become the song. Then the next year you play some new stuff but some old stuff too. The old stuff is like revisiting an old friend with all your bandmates. You already played that song hundreds of times in practice and live. It feels good. It's super easy. Now fast forward 30 years with some of these famous musicians who have been playing the same songs for 30 years. They literally have played the song like 1,000 plus times. They don't have to think about it anymore. Also, when the song is super well known by the crowd, the audience basically channels it out of you, dancing in time, singing the notes, cheering you on. It becomes even easier at that point. So the trick is to play something 100s or 1,000s of times and you will seem like a wizard. Through this incessant practice and playing live, you also may discover new parts to a song that didn't make it into the original recording. Thus, a lot of artists have slightly different live versions of material. Also, modernly, you may notice people don't make mistakes because they are playing to a backing track. Same rules apply if you are live singing and live playing an instrument to it though. Start together. Finish together. Very few people really notice what's happening in between. And we do make mistakes. Constantly. If your expertise is honed, you have sufficient experience, and you have practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, you can get away with it. Serious-ish bit. The art of performance, and the practice upon which it stands, is based around minimizing the amount of mistakes which are made. You might never get to a 100% error-free performance, gig or concert, but the whole reasoning behind it is to try to get there. A confident mistake is just a different interpretation.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.